Hi, this is Brad with Copper Creek Cuts. Today's video is sponsored by Jobber, but more on that later. I've had a lot of folks ask for updates on the business. Hey, I haven't seen this piece of equipment in a while. Where is it? What about that trailer that you never use anymore? Today's video is going to update you heading into 2024 of what Copper Creek Cuts myself is doing. The first big change that I made on the mowing side, I basically blew up my business, demolished it would probably be the better word. I went from somewhere around low 30s as far as my maintenance customers last year. I ended up cutting that down to about 15 this year. So there were 4 or 5 that had a lot of dog poop on the yard that was a consistent issue. So I dropped those folks. Then I had another around 10 to 15 that I switched them from bi-weekly to weekly only, and they didn't want that. They only wanted every other week service. So the 15 folks that I have left, they are all in 1 day of service now. I've consolidated everything down. I do want there to be a second, potentially third day of residential maintenance mowing for this season, but right now the work isn't there, right? So this is the beginning of March. Hopefully with this spring rush we'll get some more customers, but at least for right now my weekly maintenance mowing is down to just 1 day because I got rid of a lot of customers, and I am now switching to weekly only service. I don't want to offer every other week service anymore. It just takes too long. It's too much of a toll on my body. It makes me really hate the yards, and I can never leave them looking good, which is the biggest issue. Every other week mowing around me means that for the second week, the yard looks pretty bad and like nobody's taking care of it, which I don't like. Then when I do get there, there are always enough grass clippings left from an every other week mow that it damages the lawn, and there's bare spots, and it's just not good for the lawn. So I don't want to do it anymore. It is a little bit better money to do every other week service, but it just doesn't line up with what I'm going for, which is making the work days a little bit easier. I've been doing this about 7 years, which isn't a very long time, but I can tell if I'm going to be doing this for a while, I need to make things a little bit easier on me. And every other week mows are extremely difficult, especially when it comes to string trimming. It's down here in Florida, it gets 100 degrees, and it's just not fun to be string trimming an overgrown lawn. And that's what you end up doing on every other week visits here. So for that mowing, I've got the trusty Bobcat 36-inch stand-on. I think it's got somewhere between 300-400 hours. And I think I got it the fall of 2017. I mainly just use it for backyards now that I can't fit. The Toro 60-inch. So this is a Toro HDX 2000. My ride, so it's got a very nice platform that moves up and down. I've got the grass flap attachment, which, man, if you haven't tried one, hands down, can't recommend that enough. That basically lets me open and close this chute whenever I want, so I don't spray clippings out everywhere. This Toro 2000 has been redesigned. They still have this design in some locations just because of inventory sitting around, but they've redesigned this to be a lot sturdier, a lot better looking, a lot more capable. So if you're looking at an entry-level commercial, that Toro 2000 might be the ticket. Still using the Toro battery equipment. So that's going to be their backpack blower right there that I'll use most of the time. For leaf cleanups, I break out the gas steel leaf blower, but otherwise I'm using the Toro. Then up here you can see we've got the Toro 60-volt attachment. This is a residential model. I've beaten it up and I can tell the motor is starting to go in it, but it's still working for now. So I've got a straight shaft edger attachment with it. I have a tiller attachment, which I've almost never used. I've got a hedge trimmer attachment. In the shed where I don't care if it drips everywhere is a pole saw attachment. This is a residential dedicated edger. For some reason, they do not have a commercial edger, which I think is kind of a miss. But this is their commercial string trimmer. I use that for all my line trimming. There is this tether here, which I've never really used except for an experiment. That lets you run battery from that battery backpack that I showed you to something like this hedge trimmer or even the string trimmer. I've just never found a situation where I needed to do that. And this is their commercial hedge trimmer. Most of the time, I use this shafted hedge trimmer on the residential base right there, just because ergonomically that makes a lot more sense for me. I'm hoping that this year Toro launches a few more commercial stick equipments like a shafted hedge trimmer, a dedicated edger. That would really solve the only problems I have with this lineup is that I'm having to rely on residential things, like a chainsaw too. The residential chainsaw is great. I would love a commercial one though, with a little bit more power and capability. But that is the stick equipment and the backpack blower that I'm using for those lawns. Now, if you've watched the channel for any length of time, you should also know that I have been doing some stormwater management work, some cleanups, maintenance stuff, things like that. I've made videos of those when I could. That is primarily done with the Ventrac. And this is one of the other big changes in the business. Is when I first got this Ventrac 2 years ago, I thought I was going to do everything that I could with the Ventrac. I thought I was going to mow lawns with it. I was going to redo driveways with it. I was going to do leaf cleanups with it. You can do all those things, but only if your market will support them. So there are a few things that I've realized I'm going to have to scale back on, some equipment that I'll cut back on because the demand just isn't there. And what I found is that this machine has really turned into my go-to for stormwater management. Anything you need a bucket for, to, you know, some kind of a project for spreading anything or moving anything, or even in some cases digging some things, this Ventrac is now what I use. So I've got the bucket attachment for it. If you ever get a Ventrac, this is the one attachment I can say I cannot recommend enough. Everything else is situational. This power bucket, everybody with a Ventrac should have one. This is their Tough Cut deck. That is a finish mower deck. It's offset 6 inches. It's really good for ditches and wet areas because you can get close and avoid lime trimming. I do some volunteer work at a very large facility, and there are several ditches and areas that are much too wet for their Scag zero turns, which means it's people on 21-inch push behinds, it's people on line trimmers, and if it gets too wet, they can't even do that. This machine with the dual wheels on handles all of that. That offset deck gets right in the ditch. It's an amazing piece of equipment. Unfortunately, I am not using that finish mower deck as much as I thought. I originally bought it because I was bidding an HOA that I thought I was going to get. They ended up going with a cheaper route, and I'm thinking they might regret it one day because a lot of the common areas in that HOA had mower ruts that caused some erosion issues. So the developer went in, graded everything, put brand new sod on, and I think they're just going back to somebody with regular zero turns. So I believe here in a year or two, it'll be just back the way it was. All that being said about the Ventrac, this wide area mower, I thought this was going to be a big area of business that I'd get into. Not so much. This leaf plow, this landscape rake, I've used them a few times, but these are some pieces of equipment that I'm looking at sending back to Ventrac. These were all long-term demo type deals, and I'm just not using it enough to justify purchasing them. So these will most likely be going back to Ventrac. Of course, we've got the 2021 Chevy 2500. We've got the Carry-On 7x14 utility trailer. This utility trailer has come in handy so many times. Obviously, I wish it were a dump trailer, but it does its work beautifully, and the fact that it's got these 2-foot mesh sides means that I can haul a lot of trash, a lot of debris, and it's a really nice pairing if you're doing maintenance work and you need some storage space. If you do those stormwater cleanups and you need to carry brush at times, this is a really good trailer. The signage on it has not held up very well. It's just, you know, printed plastic. So this year I'm looking at getting some metal ones. I don't think I want to put stickers on the truck, so I want to letter up the trailer. I might also try and figure out that mesh is on the inside, so I can't mount something without some kind of spacer setup. Maybe I can do a big sign like right here. That's something I'm looking at. But otherwise, the trailer and truck are holding up just fine. Now, before we get to this skid steer, which I know a lot of people have been asking me about, one other big change is that I've switched to Jobber software. That's a CRM you can use to run your business. One of the main reasons I did that was because of some of the billing features they have. So they have a mobile app that I can check in and start timing a job on, and as soon as I'm done, I can collect payment. Or as soon as I show up to do the property, if it's a first-time customer and we don't have that relationship, I can bill that card, make sure the payment goes through. And that saves me a lot of time at the end of the mowing day after I've cleaned everything up and I've taken a shower, having to sit at the computer and run billing for 30 minutes to an hour every single mowing night. And I found that moving forward, my time is worth the cost of software. So in the past, I've used free options for software, and that's what I've recommended. And if you're just getting started, there's a ton of free software out there that I think is the way to go before you start spending money on it. But when you look at some of the features that come with that mobile app, I've really liked it so far. There's a few things I'm still getting the hang of. There's some learning curve things. There are a few features that I was used to that are not present in Jobber. They're working on adding those, which I think is pretty nice, and that they're reactive when it comes to somebody saying, hey, why can't I do this? Should that be a feature? And they say, yeah, we'll get on adding that. Let's take a look at it, that kind of thing. If you want to try it out, they have given me a link where you can get a free demo, and then after that, there's a discount for you as well. And they are a supporter of the channel, so they help me make videos like this that hopefully you folks enjoy. So if you are running your own business, want to try something else out, that link will be in the description and the first pinned comment. As we head into the backyard, I've had a ton of people ask about this skid steer. I'm still working on it. I had a 3-week stretch where I couldn't get a part I needed for it. And then when I did get it, I was right in the middle of like a 2-week project. So it's set. I'm trying to find some time to get back to it. There shouldn't be too much left to do before it gets running, but I am still working on that. This is another thing that a lot of folks ask about. When I got this, I thought this would be the last trailer I ever needed. I got it because of that 95-inch Ventrac mower. And that side of the business never took off, so I barely ever used this. I've used it 1 or 2 times for some volunteer humanitarian type stuff, but just not as much as I thought I would. And it's a beautiful trailer. The folks at Stryker, I have not seen anyone else using 11-inch channel for trailers like this. Like, this is the best built trailer that I've ever seen. I don't even think Diamond C puts a channel that big. No complaints about the trailer. It's just I don't use it, and I kind of need the space. We're doing some things as a family where I'm going to need to clear this area out and park something else here. So I think I'm going to try to sell this coming up shortly. A lot of my stormwater management equipment lives in here. Pressure washer, trash pump, couple of mowers, grass seed, erosion control mat, the grass spreader, all the little traffic cones, and a lot of just miscellaneous junk goes in here that I don't use for the lawn care side, but I do use for the project side. This Toro brush cutter, I haven't used this a whole lot since I've gotten that Ventrac. It's one of those things where I kind of hate to get rid of it because I feel like as soon as I do get rid of it, I'll need it. But honestly, I just haven't used it. So might be looking at moving this piece of equipment here in the future as well. And at least as far as stuff, that's pretty much the extent of it. Moving into 2024, I'm still going to be doing a couple days of maintenance mowing. Still going to be doing a couple days of YouTube video making in the week, and then projects as they come along. So if you're interested in those videos, please, as always, stay tuned. I really do appreciate you folks watching, and can't wait to see you in the next one.